One night in September of 189, Zhang Liao was stationed at Yong'an Gate by Ding Yuan in order to punish the eunuchs. Not yet famous, he stumbled across an assassin's blade. Screams came from Ding Yuan's quarters as the unarmoured Liu Bei raised his weapon to arc his swing. His crescent halberd splintered against Zhang Liao's shield stance. In a flash of red metal, socket joint shards from his ji became embedded in his kneecap. Liu Bei dropped his halberd to the floor and turned to run, losing balance with each step before eventually collapsing. Weak and bleeding out, he begged Niu Fu, who came rushing in. "My lord, why don't you spare me and let me help you? I did what you asked." Niu Fu had feared that Liu Bei was more talented than himself, and so was already wary of him. "Have you forgotten Ding Yuan and Dong Zhuo? My father will not adopt the lame nor the crooked." He then took Liu Bei away as his hostage. With disfigured legs, he could no longer walk normally, and had to either be carried or ride in a cart. For the rest of his life, he pretended to go mad and behaved like a servant, so Niu Fu eventually stopped guarding against him. By 192, Ding Yuan had returned to Bing province alive to openly oppose Dong Zhuo. The tyrant's regime was weakened, but Tao Qian was still terrified of the Grand Master's wrath. He sent gift envoys with gold and silk to Dong Zhuo, whilst also doubling the escort for Cao Song to prove his loyalty. When Cao Cao heard of this, he went along as well with some of his bodyguards to assist in the protection of his father's caravan. As Tao Qian and Cao Cao's men helped escort the 200 retainers to Shu province, a single person deflected the sudden barrage of arrows destined for Cao Song. Dian Wei intercepted the ambusher's attack mid-flight, but Cao Cao was struck by many arrows. After safely escaping the ambush, Cao Song grew deeply vengeful and brutal to the death of his close relatives, eagerly accepting Yuan Shao's employment as administrator of Dong Commandery in his late son's place. He spent his days living in Dong Commandery as a garrison commander, growing his strength by practicing archery and horse riding despite his old age. In the evenings, he wrote morbid poetry and mentored his grandsons Cao Ang, age 18, Cao Pi, age 6, Cao Zhang, age 4, and Cao Ji, age 1. With the help of talents such as Shanyue, Shahe Dun, Shahe Yuan, Cao Hong, and Cao Ren, he thoroughly planned his war against Tao Qian to avenge his son's murder. Ding Yuan emboldened Bing province with cavalry to defend against Dong Zhuo's dispatched armies led by Li Jue and Guo Si. He was easily defeated and eventually retreated to Zhou Yuan. Although they did not have a logistical base, Li Jue and Guo Si requested to pursue Ding Yuan's retreating force, and Dong Zhuo agreed to their plan. They were ordered to rendezvous with Fan Chou first, but Zhang Liao came out quickly to attack them with hundreds of skilled militia troops. In the years to come, Li Jue and Guo Si eventually annexed Bing. Ding Yuan, broken by defeat and old age, fled Zhou Yuan after his retreat, while talents such as Zhang Liao and Gao Shun also escaped to seek employment elsewhere. In 194, Sun Ce went to meet the warlord Yuan Shao, who was surprised, but ordered him to travel to Danyang Commandery to meet his uncle Wu Jing and rally his own troops there. Although Sun Ce managed to muster about a few hundred men, he came under attack by the bandit leader Zhu Lang and tragically lost his life. As Yuan Shao looked to continue to control them, the Sun clan and the 12-year-old Sun Xuan were then ordered to undertake a mourning period at Shou Chun. This infuriated Lady Wu and Sun Shangxiang, who were already grieving at a small stronghold in Wu Commandery, and it wasn't long until Han loyalists secretly arrived, who had come to return the body of Sun Ce to them. Zhang Zhao, Cheng Pu, and Yu Fan looked to Zhu Ji, desperately urging him and Lady Wu to help finance their rescue of Sun Chuan. In the coming discussions, Cheng Pu pulled the imperial seal out of his pouch and stated that he fights to restore the Han. Other loyalists, such as Huang Gai, Han Dang, and Lu Fan, were compelled to stay at Shu Chun to remain close to Sun Chuan. Already a crack archer at 11 years old, Sun Shangxiang swore to fight to uphold the Han by carving out her own realm. She trained harder and harder after each passing day, but the other generals commented on her short temper. One day, after hearing that Zulang's barbarians were camped somewhere nearby, Sun Shangxiang became uncontrollable with rage. To settle her anger, officers such as Zhu Ji and Cheng Pu launched a nighttime raid against Zulang while he was on a hunting excursion. Sun Shangxiang secretly followed them to the battle, where Cheng Pu became shocked and warned her to stop. She refused to listen, and managed to plant an arrow into Zulang's cheek, avenging her elder brother's death. As time went on, she believed more and more that she was chosen to become the second female Huangdi, tasked with a divine mission to restore the legitimate Han seat to power. With Dong Zhuo still alive, Liu Biao's faction is strengthened through trade and military deterrence. Many ex-Sun officers such as Zhou Yu and Lu Su also come to seek employment in Jing because Liu Biao shared a deep hatred towards Yuan Shao. However, they actually looked to use his resources and navy to try and rescue Sun Quan. They joined Liu Biao out of necessity, so are not completely loyal to him, and they still harbour deep resentment towards the General Huangzu for ambushing Sun Jian. Despite this, Zhou Yu gets himself relocated to Huangzu's Shangxiang commandery in order to better control the situation. At this time, an alliance of Liu Biao, Tao Qian and Gongsun Zan opposed Yuan Shao, Yuan Shu and Cao Song. In the face of strong military aggression from Cao Song, Tao Qian appealed to Gongsun Zan for help. He sent Liu Bei and Jiankang with 5,000 soldiers mixed with barbarian cavalry, plus several thousand commoners, and Tao Qian stationed them at Xiaopei. In the absence of Cao Cao, Liu Bei had desperately been trying to assemble a following of brave Han loyalists and connections who by now had elevated him to the status of state-sponsored hero. In a rather short period of time, not only had he gained the support of two of the most influential clans in Shu province, but Tao Qian's sickness had also become serious. He told his assistant, "Other than Liu Bei, there is no one who can bring peace to this province." Liu Bei finally gained control over Shu province after Yuan Shao recognized his governorship, and he soon encountered Cao Song, where they discussed ways to help liberate the emperor from Dong Zhuo. Cao Song initially dismissed him as delusional, but eventually aided him by providing resources and troops. They then presented their ideas to Yuan Shao, but were both effectively sidelined. Niu Fu never fully trusted the mad Lu Bu, so sent him to Dong Zhuo as a gift. The tyrant ordered for the crippled Lu Bu's execution for his crimes, then displayed his head upon the city gates as a warning to others. Dong Zhuo's failing health led to him eventually becoming bedridden with gout, yellow skin and purple knees. The imperial doctors said they exhausted all their methods, but unless Dong Zhuo reduced his wine intake, his organs would continue to collapse. As such, Dong Zhuo passed away in the year 195, gasping in pain, wine cup in his trembling hand as usual. In the coming months, supporters of Emperor Xian spread the news around the city that Lu Bu's head had not yet decayed, and commoners started leaving offerings at the gate for him. Rumours quickly spread that the gate was haunted, until eventually, many of the soldiers refused to guard the gate altogether. With relations between Li Jue and Guosi deteriorating after each passing day, Emperor Xian's court was rendered poor and unable to fend for itself. Dong Cheng served nearby as a military officer under Niu Fu, but his service under him ended in 195 after his subordinate Yu Hu Chia assassinated him. There were several tens of battles fought per day in the alleys or market, and on one occasion, the emperor's own tent was caught in the crossfire. Dong Cheng, Jia Chu and others were able to escort Emperor Xian out of Chang'an, after which his supporters spread rumours that Lu Bu's ghost had opened the gates for them. Around that time, Yuan Shu had the intention of usurping the Han throne by declaring himself emperor, so he ordered his troops to start capturing counties and commanderies. Meanwhile, across the river, Liu Biao became distrustful, so banished Wu Jing and Sun Ben because they had previously served under Yuan Shu. They hastily arrived to Lady Wu, who welcomed them warmly. She then agreed with their idea to send Yu Fan to build up diplomatic relations with Zhou Yu and Liu Biao. After liaising with Zhou Yu and Lu Su in secret, Yu Fan was welcomed warmly by Liu Biao and treated as a member of his family. In the coming battles, Gan Ning and Huangzu's navy destroyed Yuan Shu's fleet, but his land armies remained mostly undamaged. When Emperor Xian escaped the ruins of Luoyang, he came under the protection of Dong Cheng, the former bandit Yang Feng, and a few other strongmen such as Xu Huang. The emperor initially sought refuge under Yuan Shao, but was rebuffed, despite Liu Bei and Cao Song's distress towards this missed opportunity. Between February and March 196, acting on advice of Mizhu and Guanyu, Liu Bei sent Zhao Yun west to fetch Emperor Xian, but he was blocked by Dong Cheng and Yuan Shu subordinate Chang Nu. Between March and April, Zhang Fei recruited thousands of Yellow Turban remnants from Runan and Yingchuan, and was later appointed general who establishes virtue by Yuan Shao. Between August and September, Liu Bei led his forces to the ruins of Luoyang and received Emperor Xian himself. Realizing Liu Bei's meteoric rise, when he arrived at Luoyang, half of the court and most of the refugees already believed that heaven itself had chosen him. The emperor granted Liu Bei a ceremonial axe and appointed him manager of the affairs of the imperial secretariat. As Luoyang was in bad shape, Chen Deng and others advised Liu Bei to move to Xuchang and establish a new imperial capital. Under Liu Bei's recommendation, Cao Song was promoted to general who guards the east and relocated to Pei Commandery, then later enfeoffed as the Marquis of Pei Village, the peerage previously held by his adoptive father, Cao Teng. From this point on, Cao Song's veteran generals recognized Liu Bei as a Han loyalist with magnetic purpose. They openly admired and cooperated with him. By now, Huangzu and Gan Ning's troops had grown tired and restless from the constant fighting. When Gan Ning's pirates resorted to raiding the surrounding area, Liu Biao turned a blind eye to their crimes. As the Wu loyalists continued to hold meetings in the surrounding area, Yu Fan frequently sailed to various secret locations disguised as a merchant. When Gan Ning's pirates unknowingly intercepted and drowned his envoy ship, many feared that the Wu secret discussions would be leaked. However, Zhou Yu had already insisted on the practice of burning all of the letters. Despite this, Sun Shangxiang became infuriated at the news of Yu Fan's death and what she saw as a betrayal of the greater plan by Zhou Yu. When Lu Su arrived as an emissary to Sun Shangxiang, he urged her to remain patient, but she didn't listen to him. As such, the Shanyue raids into southern Jing became increasingly daring and frequent, and sometimes even hindered Zhou Yu's greater plans. Despite still being too young to fight, Sun Shangxiang insisted on leading a daring rescue to save Sun Quan, but many of her followers stood still at the girl's command. Only Lu Fan stood up to attempt such a daring mission. When he got to Shouchun, Yuan Shao despised him and wanted to have him arrested as a spy and tortured. Some of Lu Fan's retainers tried to free him from jail, but they could not bypass the tight security and were all captured. Yuan Shao was very unimpressed of Sun Shangxiang's actions, and often lamented that he had no son of his own like Sun Ce. He then declared himself to be the rightful governor of Yang province, and executed Sun Quan, Lu Fan, and many other Wu conspirators at Shouchun. Following the death of Sun Quan, Zhou Yu expressed sharp contempt and urgency towards Sun Shangxiang. At 17, she declared herself Princess General of Sun and established her headquarters at Wu Commandery. Zhou Yu repeatedly sent envoys, blaming her for the fall of the great clan. After reading the letters, Zhang Zhao told Sun Shangxiang, "Why are you doing this? How dare you behave so arrogantly? As leader of the household, you shouldn't be putting everyone in danger for your own personal grudge. Did you really think the people of Jiangnan would go along with this?" Following his resignation from his position, many generals such as Chengpu deserted, but some remained to form the Princess General's army. After making allies of Yan Baihu and Wang Lang to provide supplies and troops, and by gaining new allies such as Zhu Ran, she began her imperial crusade by marching against Liu Yao at Shui County. With tribal warriors, mountain infantry, and her personal bow-maiden guard, she crushes the sickly Liu Yao who fell to illness mid-siege. When his refugee army opened the city gates for her, she took many of them into her forces, but the great fighter Dai Shi had already fled, escorting Liu Yao's family to safety under the national hero Liu Bei. By this point, Yuan Shao's armies contested Chen, Yingchuan, Runan and Xiao commanderies, but his gains were fragmented and contested because Liu Bei had drawn most talents west to Xuchang. After Yuan Shao declared himself emperor and marched on the Central Plains proper, he clashed with the armies of Yuan Shao, Liu Bei and Cao Song, so could not make any significant gains. After Sun Shangxiang's declared ambition, Shanyue raids into Jing became drastically more violent. In response, Zhou Yu was granted administrator of Jiangxia by Liu Biao, with the responsibility of protecting the region's borders. Under new orders, he unleashed several devastating naval attacks against the Shanyue, but they captured and executed his diplomat Lu Su after one of the battles. Stricken with grief, Zhou Yu sallied out against a wandering bandit army led by Yan Baihu. White Tiger Yan sent his younger brother forward while he escaped, then Zhou Yu personally cut him down in combat. As Yan Yu was known among Yan Baihu's men as a fierce warrior, his death sent fear into the hearts of the Shanyue. After these battles, Zhou Yu and Sun Shangxiang's troops along the Sun-Liu border became more wary and suspicious of each other, eventually openly attacking each other. Sun Shangxiang styled herself Heaven-Ordained Empress of Wu, and started minting coins stamped with a red phoenix. She married Zhu politically to bind the tribal Yue to her regime, while her Bowmaiden Guard executed any Shanyue dissidents who disagreed with her aggressive expansion. She forced her way into quasi-commandery despite being met with open arms by a fearful Wang Lang, and absorbed his small naval fleet into her forces. The sorrowful Zhou Yu continued his solitary work from Jiangxia under Liu Biao's banner. By executing Ganning and Huangzu for piracy, he was able to absorb their marines into his fleet, which he then used to attack Sun Shangxiang's coastal forts. At a battle at Poyang Lake, Sun Shangxiang's mountain infantry faced off against Zhou Yu's navy. She sunk 40 ships with fire, but lost over 6,000 of her own infantry, and so was forced to retreat. To the north, following crushing defeats to the armies of Yuan Shao, Liu Bei and Cao Song, Yuan Shu was forced to retreat to Shouchun. His extravagant lifestyle and audacious actions made him the target of slander, so many of his followers quickly deserted him, and his regime fell apart. Being unable to swallow the coarse food that his soldiers ate, Yuan Shu decided to flee the city, but Liu Bei sent Zhu Ling to stop him. Despite this, Yuan Shu was able to slip through and escaped into the countryside. With white hair, bent spine, but eyes still sharp, Cao Song sits perched with his bow and arrows, guarding his borders from Pei Commandery. His cold body was found one morning by his troops, fingers gripped in death around his weapon. Many of his followers mourned deeply at his funeral, which Liu Bei personally attended alongside Mi Zhu and Zhao Yun. Now general of the left and manager of the Imperial Secretariat, Liu Bei worked closely with Emperor Xian. He was very quickly granted the 9 bestowments after he married one of his daughters to Liu Shi, whose shared ancestry was generations back. Cao Song's former officers, Shanyue, Shahadun and Cao Hong swore loyalty to Liu Bei, while the 15-year-old Cao Pi rose as a master archer from Dian Wei's unit. After securing control over the 4 provinces in the north, Yuan Shao prepared to wage war against Liu Bei and launched an attack on the imperial capital Shu. Dian Feng and Zhu Shou advised a slow, steady, step-by-step approach, but Yuan Shao heeded the advice of Guandu and others to start an all-out war immediately. He believed he could simply drown Liu Bei's armies with his superior numbers, but among them was the finest mixed heavy cavalry and infantry unit ever assembled in the north, the repurposed formations led by the 2 men that once served Ding Yuan. When Liu Bei's scouts reported the incoming enemy army, Gao Shun and Zhang Liao's elite Tortoise Snake unit advanced to attack Yuan Shao's camps along the Yellow River, southwest of Yan Ford. As soon as Gao Shun's unbreakable square created a gap, Zhang Liao led men and horses straight through that gap at full pace. They advanced in silence as far as Ji County and set fire to over 50 enemy camps, killed or captured thousands, and forced over 30 of Yuan Shao's officers into surrendering. When Yuan Shao's armies crossed the river, Guandu slayed Yan Liang in single combat at Bomar, while Zhang Fei led Shu Province's armies mixed with the Xingzhou Corps to attack and defeat Wen Chao. Despite having won the preliminary battles, Liu Bei was still outnumbered, so Yuan Shao pushed to Yangwu, while Liu Bei prepared his defences at Guandu. At the same time, Yuan Shao sent Han Meng south to meet up with Yuan Shu's remnant forces and support rebel activity south of Xuchang. While Cao Ren maintained a stern defence at Shu, Liu Pi arrived in support of Liu Bei with his Yellow Turban remnants and successfully routed, pursued, and then killed Yuan Shu. Several plans were presented to Yuan Shao at Yangwu, where Zhu Shu pointed out that a war of attrition would be a proper way to end the war. Shortly after this, the captured General Gao Lang alerted the Tortoise and Snake unit to Yuan Shao's weakly defended supply depot at Wu Chao. The location was no mystery to the men of Bing, having spent years raiding the exact same roads that Yuan Shao now uses. Some generals were suspicious of this piece of intelligence, but Shanyue and Jiachu urged Liu Bei to put Gao Lan's plan to action. Thus, that night, Guanyu and Yue Jin led 5,000 cavalry to raid Wu Chao, while Liu Bei and Cao Ren led Guandu's defense against Zhang He. When Yuan Shao's camp received the news of the attack at Wu Chao, many of his officers abandoned their stations or defected. To this, Liu Bei led his armies in full force across the Yellow River and started besieging Yi City. His forces piled up earth mounds to form small hills and constructed platforms for their archers to shoot from. Thereupon, Cao Pi commanded the bowmen who shot down into the castle. Yuan Shao was struck down and perished along with innumerable troops. The men within the city all became fearful. Yuan Shao, half mad with despair, refused every suggestion of surrender. On the front line, the leading commanders of the city clashed when Zhou Yu's plans to defect to Liu Bei were discovered by Shen Pi. He fled the city rather than face arrest, but despite this, Shen Pi's nephew Shenrong surrendered to Liu Bei anyway, and opened the east gate at night for him. With no other options, and unable to face the humiliation of surrender, Yuan Shao committed suicide, ultimately leading to Liu Bei's annexation of the north in the coming years. While Zhao Yun and Zhang Liao shared joint command on a campaign to pursue Yuan Shi, Liu Bei declared his northern campaign complete, and started eyeing the south. Shortly after his main army began its march towards Jing, Liu Biao chose to surrender to Liu Bei instead of resisting. His key advisor Zhou Yu had some disagreement with this, and so acted independently to continue his personal feud against Sun Shangxiang. During a battle at the Three Gorges, Sun forces led by Ling Cao redirected the river to flood Lu Meng's camps, resulting in a great loss of civilian life. Sun Yi followed up with his land attack raids onto coastal towns, but he was eventually captured by Lu Meng in an ambush and executed by Zhou Yu after the battle for his crimes. When Liu Bei entered Xiangyang, he accepted Liu Biao's surrender and enfeoffed him as the Marquis of Changsha. Kuai Liang, Cao Mao, Wen Pin, and the entire Jing fleet were folded into Liu Bei's imperial fleet, all except for Zhou Yu's navy. He secretly burned his Liu Biao commission scroll on the steps of Jiangxia and refused to attend the surrender banquet. Liu Bei overlooked this insult because he agreed with continued pressure against Sun Shangxiang's uprising. Using his war against the barbarians as his reasoning, Zhou Yu privately told Lu Meng, "I have heard that the misfortunes of the empire come not from the outside but from within. This so-called Heaven-Ordained Empress leads barbarians in Wu, and the Shanyue are now causing disorder in 3 provinces. My real concern is that we may be controlling the waters, but we are doing nothing about the source. The official administrators have lost control and have let the whole province fall into rebellion. When dealing with those that wish to usurp power, you cannot bear to be too strict. The House of Liu bends its knee to another Liu, merged without a fight, but I will not share in this peace. I am met with a time of grave disorder, and so cannot fulfill my true ambition. I have taken Liu's salary, where else can I go? That reckless child betrays everything we fought for. When she is beheaded, and her followers change their clothing and submit to law and order, that's when a good man's work will be noticed." Zhou Yu commanded 3 separate navies, along with Lu Meng and Su Fei. Lu and Su defeated He Qi's barbarians, Huang Long Luo and Jin Qi on the river. Su Fei wanted to pursue them, but Lu Meng refused to go along with the plan. By the time Yan Baihu and Zhu Ran's ambush troops appeared, the largest divisions of Shanyue, they were pushed back into the mountains from prepared defences that Lu Meng had constructed. He then turned to Su Fei and said, "How can we catch the tiger cub if we don't enter the tiger's den?" To the north, Zhou Yu landed his marines at Wushu, where he'd done battle with Ling Cao and Ling Tong's rebels. At this point, the whole area around Moling was in continual disorder and rebellion. As administrator of Shangxiang, Zhou Yu encouraged the non-Chinese to surrender with promises of good treatment. He also set up a number of military colonies to defend the newly pacified territories. Despite Sun Shangxiang's preparations, Zhou Yu was able to outwit her and took her supply base at Kuaji through superior tactics. With no supplies, Sun Shangxiang and Yan Baihu were easily defeated by Zhou Yu. They fled into the hills, where they continued to encourage the Shanyue to oppose foreign rule over the Jiangdong territories. When Liu Bei entered Moling in the summer of 202, he renamed the city Jiankang, meaning healthy or health. All of the Wu coinage facilities were immediately shut down. Then Liu Bei announced to his people, "When I was younger, I never left my saddle. My thighs were thin, but now that I don't ride anymore, they have grown. The days and months pass like a stream, and old age will come, but I have already been granted heaven's will. This is why I am so happy. I must go now, and ride in this feather-covered emperor's chariot.